Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karina Novoa. I'm going to be giving an overview on how I implemented the standards-based grading system into an introductory statistics course. So today we're going to look at three main parts. One of them is the breakdown of the course grades. The second part is the student progress tracker. And then the last part is the assessment and the criteria. So throughout these parts, I'm going to be addressing the strategies that I've implemented, and then also addressing some of the issues that I have experienced and the adjustments that I have made. How is a student's grade determined in my Stats 1200 course? So essentially, my students' grades are going to be dependent on how many standards they achieve mastery in. So when I first started this full standards-based grading implementation this semester, this is what I started with. I started with 14 standards total. Those 14 standards are broken up into three parts. So there are 10 standards that are on statistical concepts, 3 standards on mathematical practice, which is intended to assess students on how well they reason, communicate, and use statistical tools. And then the last standard is called the 2 Ps, which is on how well they prepare before class and participate during class. So at Cal Poly Pomona, we're getting closer to the end of the semester, and so I've had to make a couple of updates. I've noticed that I had to spend a lot of class time talking about the standards-based grading system because the students weren't understanding it from the get-go. And so it took a lot of talking, a lot of examples and demonstrations throughout the semester to get the hang of that. So that really took a lot of time in what I intended was for the content. So I had to remove one of the standards because we weren't going to completely finish it and it wasn't fair to assess them on it. So these are some of the adjustments that I've had to make. So the next thing is my students' progress tracker. So I created this progress tracker on a Google document, and I list down all of the items that students need to complete in order to achieve mastery for a particular standard. So this is what I started with. In general, most of the standards will consist of 2 main parts. One of them is an online quiz where they need to earn at least an 80% for that quiz to be considered mastered. And then they also have to earn an E or an M, so M for mastery, E for exceeds mastery, on a free response quiz. You will also see the homework listed. The homework was a gateway assignment to the online quiz. So I want to make sure that students are actually preparing for these quizzes. So they have to go through a homework assignment, earn at least 80% on that before they can have access to the quiz. So this is how I started with. This is generally what I've required for most standards. Some of them don't have the online quiz. Others, I wanted students to demonstrate mastery on the free response quizzes twice, since there was no online quiz for these. But throughout the semester, what I've come to understand is that I was doing way too much, like per standard, and it was becoming overwhelming for students. I also had some complaints about like the homework taking too long and then having to redo it was just taking up so much time. So after talking with colleagues and the department chair as well, I received feedback on what areas I can cut back. And so this is what I currently have right now. Oops. So there are some standards where students have the option to now just do the online quiz or to take the free response quiz rather than doing both. On the mathematical practice standards, they now have to just demonstrate mastery one time on the free response quiz as opposed to twice. And I've also made some adjustments on like the homework assignments by minimizing the homework set of problems just to make it more manageable for students. So those were some of the issues that I've encountered with this. Okay. So here is a sample of one of my course standards. It's on numerical summaries of data. So this is essentially the learning outcomes that students need to demonstrate. On Canvas, the way I've organized this course is through standards. So here's a module of this standard. And so everything that they need that's related to this standard, they can find in this one module. And the general breakup is, we have an overview of the module, a list of our resources, their preparation. So these are their pre-class assignments. I ask them to watch videos that are at most 10 minutes and answer some related questions. And it's expected that they complete this before class. During class, we work on activities. And so students should be doing this during class. That way they can submit it at the end of the day and get credit for that. And the preparation and these learning activities all constitute like the 2P standard. And then finally, for practice, for practice, we have online homework and then just a set of practice problems. And then their assessment was generally the online quiz and a free response quiz. So here's a sample of a free response quiz or question on a free response quiz for that standard. So they were asked to construct a histogram in this case. And these were the criteria that I would assess students on. So let me make things a little bit more cleaner, and let me just show you on Gradescope. So I believe you can all see Gradescope on your screen, right? Okay, so this is how I've organized the grading criteria. My goal was to make things efficient for when I have to grade, where I can really just like click things and minimize the amount of writing I have to do to still give substantial feedback, but also make it efficient for me. And so I really like Gradescope as a tool to do that. So for all of the standards, I would break it up into 3 parts. The first part tells you the score that you get for that standard. Did you exceed expectation? Did you master it? Near mastery, beginning mastery. Then I tell them what is the criteria that they need in order to demonstrate mastery. So everything that I've listed here is for exceeding mastery. So this is what they all would ideally do. However, for mastery, I specify what criteria they must meet in order to achieve that mastery. So for instance, for this problem, it says they need to meet criteria 2R, 2T, 2Y, and that's going to be listed here. So 2R, 2T, 2Y. As long as they have those 3, they get mastery on this problem. In addition, sometimes some students make some minor mistakes. I still want them to be aware of it. So whether it's minor or a major mistake, I let them know. And I really like how on Gradescope we can link, our comments back to these criteria. So I can link this. This was what mistake did they make? They didn't follow instructions. But it's not a major mistake, so I can look past that. So my strategy there was definitely to keep things organized, efficient, and still provide a lot of feedback. I'm definitely being very efficient with the grading, but I have noticed that some students are not sure where to find this feedback. And although I've gone through it like in class, I'm finding myself having to repeat it multiple times. All right, and so that's what I have for you. Those are some of like what I've encountered and some of the issues that I've looked at. And as a whole, next time I teach this course, I'm going to be really focused on what does it mean for like to achieve mastery on a standard. I think I was being a little too stringent and expecting a little too much. So this is something that I'm evaluating. And the plus is that I'm part of this course coordination where I'm part of this community of practice and I get feedback from people. So I'm asking like, hey, I'm grading it this way. Is this what way you would do in your class? And so that's really helping me to adjust.